You're listening to the Telltale channel. Don't forget to check me out on all social media: Patreon, Twitter, Teespring, and Etsy. All links can be found in the description or on my website, telltaleatheist.com. So the first article I wanted to take a look at here is entitled, "Holy Smoke, Researchers Say Cannabis Used in Ancient Israelite Shrine." This is on the New York Times website. This is actually by Reuters. I just want to make sure I credit the person for it. Let's read it and see what it says. Jerusalem. The ancient Israelites may have used cannabis to get high as part of their religious ritual, according to Israeli researchers who found residue of the drug at a nearly 3,000-year-old shrine. The traces were found on an altar at the Tel Arad Temple in the Negev Desert, about 10 kilometers or 6 miles from the southern Israeli town of Arad. The site was discovered more than 50 years ago, but new analysis of unidentified organic material on the limestone altar yielded the surprising result. Archaeologist Aaron Airy? What a name. That's a really cool name, actually. Archaeologist Aaron Airy, Eranarie, who led the research project on behalf of the Israel Museum and Israel's Volcani Institute, said the material contained traces of cannabis and animal dung, likely used to help the plant burn. That's a weird thing to mix in. I know a lot of potheads, and I know they mix some weird shit in, but I've never heard of them mixing animal dung. Maybe we just didn't progress to that. Maybe I wasn't in the movement long enough to get to that point. Who knows? Airy said there has been no evidence of cannabis having been cultivated locally during the 8th century BC, suggesting someone had gone to the trouble of importing it for its psychoactive effect. Frankincense traces were found on a second altar at the shrine, he said. Reporting by Reinat Harash and Mayan Lubel. Editing by Jeffrey Heller and Angus McSwan. I apologize if I messed up the names of the reporters or the editor or any of the locations. I'm sure I fucked them up somewhere along the line. I'm sorry for that. I do my best with the name stuff. So this story seemed particularly interesting to me because I've had a lot of people ask me, do I smoke weed? And the answer to that question is no. I used to. I have before, and once a year or so, if I'm in a legal city and I'm with somebody who happens to have it and they are willing to share it with me, in fact, they're forcing it down my throat, then I might smoke some of it. But generally, I'm so far past that part of my life at this point that it's just like, I don't even drink alcohol. But this is not where this story ends. The Friendly Atheist actually wrote a story on this too, so I figured we'd give this one a read and see what he had to say about it. This is by Terry Firma on the Friendly Atheist website, so let's give it a read and see what it says. There's been talk of a fourth Harold and Kumar movie. Now, with the latest news from Israel, I'm practically praying that it'll be called Harold and Kumar Go to the Holy Land. That would be a phenomenal name. This is a quote. In 1963, 2 limestone altars were found at the entrance to the Holy of Holies of the Judahite Shrine at Beersheba Valley in Israel's Tel Arad. The shrine dates back to the 8th century BCE, so 800 years basically before Jesus died, supposedly. This is another quote. Analysis of the materials on 2 altars, now housed in the Israel Museum, Jerusalem, found they contained cannabis and frankincense, according to a study published Thursday. This is the first time that physical evidence of cannabis has been identified in the ancient Near East, according to the study authors. Many cultures used hallucinogenic materials and ingredients in order to get into some kind of religious ecstasy, said leader Aaron Airy, curator of Iron Age and Persian periods archaeology in the Israel Museum, Jerusalem. We never thought about Judah taking part in these cultic practices, Airy said. Now this is back to Terry Firma speaking. During a toke, have you ever muttered, "That's some good shit"? The Judahite worshippers may have said the same thing. They literally burned animal feces along with the cannabis. Chemical evidence of both was found on the altars. Extremely interesting. Here's a quote. Once the cannabis and animal feces were set afire, the waste could have allowed a slow, low-temperature burn that was conducive to group inhalation, the study suggested. Cannabis was burned for a psychoactive role as part of a ritual, since the use of hallucinogenic substances for cultic purposes in the ancient Near East has been documented. The tribe probably didn't grow its own pot either. How cannabis arrived in Telluride is unknown, but since there are no known cannabis seeds or pollen remains in archaeological sites in the ancient Near East, the cannabis was likely imported in hashish form. It's fun to speculate on all the ways Christendom would be very different today if, over the centuries, the devil's weed had been viewed as God's weed instead. I think the term is the devil's lettuce. I don't think it's the devil's weed. I think we're talking devil's lettuce here. Would Sunday services be more attractive if there was guaranteed ecstasy to be had? Would there be fewer religious tight asses? Would more Rastafarians convert to Christianity? Would Catholics with serious munchies demand a second helping of the Eucharist? Would Christian rock be tolerable? Would church bands play Cheech and Chong and Fish songs? Would 420 be a Christian holiday? Somewhere there's a parallel universe where all this is happening. I think I might like it better than our own. That's pretty funny. Some people actually really like Christian rock, weirdly. I wasn't allowed to listen to Christian rock, but when I was a kid, my parents actually got me a Creed CD. I think the CD was called My Own Prison or something. Come to find out, that's a religious band. Did not know that at the time, but now I listened to that music when I was younger, so it's like drilled into my mind permanently. So it's not terrible, I guess. I don't hate Creed as much as I hate Nickelback, but literally everybody alive hates Nickelback with a fiery passion of 1,000 burning suns. So, yeah, it's pretty much impossible to hate Creed as much as you hate Nickelback. So